r/AskReddit by Reddit tells. Former religious people, what made you stop believing in your faith? My mother loved me unconditionally. I wasn't such a fuck up, but then out of the blue she decided to get religious. After that, everything that was normally okay, listening to music, being friends with girls, going to school functions, was forbidden. Not only that, because I wasn't able to adapt to the bullshit rules and culture shock, I was just disowned. I'm 28 now. The last 17 years of my life with her have been unbearable, and I finally had the courage to cut her off. Because I was tired of never being able to make my mom proud, I had to deal with a mental funeral and the fact that I basically lost my mom years ago. Very similar thing happened to me. I watched my mom use religion as validation for her cruel actions instead of getting help for her serious depression. She cut everyone out including me, and I haven't seen her in 20 years. Seeing the ugly side of religion really affected me, and I prayed every night for a year asking for help to not lose faith, until I eventually did and stopped praying. I've never been happier. Life without religion is like having the whole world open to me, and I'm able to appreciate it and all its beauty, including all the wonderful beautiful people whether they are religious or not. Something happened with me and my aunt. She was an amazing woman who never failed to make me laugh and so generous. She used to be incredibly liberal, but in the last 10 years or so of her life she became incredibly religious. I don't know if it was because she was working for a church and was steeped in the bullshit, or saw her mortality and wrapped herself in religion as a way to deal with the fear of the untimely death she could see coming. She had something like 30 stints and had to quadruple bypasses. Her heart just didn't want to keep going. I loved her so much, but I couldn't stand the person she'd become. She'd become so narrow-minded, just bathing in the evangelical Kool-Aid. She passed suddenly a few years ago, but I feel like she had died years before that. Born and raised a Jehovah's Witness. Left almost 4 years ago at 20. Hypocrisy, lies, fear-mongering, and I just generally don't like a lot of those people. Also the part where I have to spend every second of the day either studying or preaching and give up on my hopes, dreams, goals, and aspirations. I had a friend growing up who emancipated at 16 and chose to live in a freaking group home over staying a Jehovah's Witness. Yeah, I've heard stories. Sounds awful. Born and raised too. Left home at 16 because I couldn't take any more of the hypocrisy, preaching, bullying at school, or the way the religion has to dictate every part of your existence, and my mum said we weren't allowed to live at home if we didn't follow it. The day I moved out was the last time my mum spoke to me 12 years later, and not a peep from her or my siblings, purely because I didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. You don't have to be religious to be a good person, but apparently Jehovah's Witnesses refuse that. Accept that. I couldn't reconcile that. 1. God was in control of everything. 2. God loves everyone unconditionally. 3. God was allowing very bad things to happen to the people he loves. A. We are created in God's image. B. God is perfect. C. We are conceived in sin. D. He knew us as we were knitted in the womb. E. All have fallen short of the glory of God. F. The church is gonna need about 10% of your shit. Da fuck. Which is it? Either God is not omnipotent, or he is omnipotent but not omnibenevolent, or he doesn't exist. Is God willing to prevent evil, but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able, but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then whence cometh evil? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why call him God? That was attributed to the Greek philosopher Epicurus. I hated the book of Job for this reason. God basically gambles with the devil to punish Job, fucking up his whole life just to settle a bet. Then, at the end, Job is still faithful, but there's no real payoff for him. Just God won, I guess. Also, he gets pissed at Job for questioning him at one point, which WTF did he expect? Yeah, and if he loves everyone, how come he hates homosexuals? I was in middle school history class thinking about how stupid people were for believing in the Greek gods. And then it all clicked. At least the Greeks admitted their gods were petty and temperamental. I've often wondered what people would believe if all religions and non-religions were presented with equal validity. That's similar to my story, but it wasn't until college, and I had to read Greco-Roman creation myths for a class. I saw how similar their stories were to the book of Genesis. Then I wondered what reason did I have to believe the stories about Judeo-Christian God in the Bible were true and other myths were false. I had been having doubts for a while, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Years of silence, no answers to prayer, and the constant proliferation of evil at the expense of the good and just. Edit. If there is a God, he will have to beg my forgiveness, a phrase that was carved on the walls of a concentration camp cell during WWII by a Jewish prisoner. I always think that, if there is a God, why would he let it get this bad for so many people across the globe? A Jew dies and goes to heaven. He stands at the pearly gates and God says, "Tell me a joke and I'll let you in." The Jew says, "A Holocaust." God looks puzzled and says, "I don't get it." The Jew says, "I guess you had to be there." I was raised in a Protestant Christian church and they tried to make me believe in conspiracies like Rihanna and Lady Gaga being in the Illuminati. Also, that we should be against equality because we should stay traditional. So marriage should be between a man and a woman and they are obligated to have kids, or else they are failures. Once I talked about the time I had sleep paralysis and the Sunday school teacher told me it was a demon sent by Satan. Not to mention another teacher kept making racist, sexist and homophobic remarks all the time. I'm not about that life. I'm agnostic now. I was terrified as a 12-year-old because I was led to believe sleep paralysis was the presence of a demon. I occasionally heard the conspiracies about secular celebrities and was told the rapture would happen any moment now. For any context, I grew up in an independent fundamental Baptist church, which they pride themselves on. They're all stuck in the 1960s, for the most part. I'm glad you are agnostic. I'd encourage you to make the leap and call yourself an atheist. Atheism, contrary to what many people would have you believe, does not mean you think a god is impossible. Atheism is literally the absence of theism. Atheism literally means you do not believe in God. People often mistake this as meaning you believe there is no God. The distinction is subtle, which is why many people choose to call themselves agnostic, but this bothers me because the way most people define agnostic is actually what atheist is. I'd love to see more people educate on the truth of what atheism is. It is not a religious conviction that there cannot possibly be a god. It is simple intellectually honesty about what we can and cannot know with regards to the divine. Wow, what kind of Protestant church? I was raised in a Lutheran church, and it was a good church, stuck to God stuff, and didn't really get into any society or laws, abortion, etc. I'm not longer religious, but compared to a lot of my Catholic friends I think I got very lucky with the church I was raised in. They were pretty chill. Raised Methodist. When I heard people believe murderers, pedophiles, and other horrible people can be saved and accepted into heaven, but someone that doesn't have faith, but is an otherwise amazing and good person will suffer in hell for eternity. That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Even if that is true, why would I want to serve an egotistical god like that? A god that cares more about you having faith in him than actually being a good person. Give me eternal agony over that. This was one of the biggest realizations for me, that I viewed sending good people to hell as evil, regardless of religion, and that I don't want to worship something that would do that. Went to a funeral a few weeks ago. Pastor was preaching that it's great to be a good person, but being a good person does not get you into heaven. You need faith in God and be baptized. Billions of people have walked this earth who have been good people that have not been baptized and might have not known about God or rotting in hell. Just does not make sense. All the different religions does not make sense. If I was born a Buddhist and followed it my entire life, wrong. The correct religion was XXXXXX. Thanks for playing. I hope we find life on other planets. All religions would be void then. The world would be in turmoil for a few decades as people lost their faith, but then we would grow past it and become better people. People spending more time judging people than trying to be a good person. My grandma was haranguing me because I don't care about same-sex marriage and I'm pro-choice. I spend a lot of time actually putting work into my community and she just spends time judging people like it's her job. As a bisexual myself, it really does enrage me. If it doesn't affect you, it shouldn't be a problem. It's okay to say you won't do it because of religion, but saying you can't do this because of my religion, that sucks. This is my experience too. I'm in a career where I can help people out and I really enjoy it. The most jihad Christians I know have terrible habits that go totally against the Bible and complain about the poor. You know, the people Jesus specifically goes out of his way to help. But I'm the bad guy because I use medication to help with mental illness and I don't go to church. I understand kindness and right from wrong, so I think I'm good. I was raised Catholic. CCD, church every Sunday, the whole nine. During my final year of CCD, right before I was about to make my confirmation, when I was 15, I got pregnant. My CCD teacher and the priest at my church came to visit me in the hospital, where they told me I wouldn't be allowed back to church anymore because of the sin I had made. They were not kind about it. When my baby was like 4 months old, I bumped into my CCD teacher while walking my daughter, and she asked me when I was going to come by to have her baptized. She said that even though I wasn't a part of the church anymore, I could still at least do that, and the priest would do it out of kindness. What? I laughed in her face. Never had the baby baptized and realized the whole idea of religion was dumb. I still believed in a God for a while, but just naturally came to the conclusion that God is not real. Call my baby a sin? Fuck you. She's 21 now and in her 3rd year of college, and we had it pretty rough, but we made it. She was no sin. The realization that basically all human cultures had religions. You can go to every edge of the earth to find isolated, uncontacted societies, and they have gods they worship. There are thousands and thousands of religions, and not one reason to think any one of them is special. Why don't you believe in God? That's a loaded question. How did you pick one among thousands? The answer is painfully obvious to anyone who isn't religious. Exactly. Once you realize most people choose a religion with the same logic they'd choose a sports team, regional or family tradition / peer pressure, it becomes clear none of them has any intrinsic value. Religion is what you make of it, and I'd just rather focus my time and effort on something else. As Richard Dawkins said, we are all atheists about most of the gods that humanity has ever believed in. Some of us just go one god further. When you are indoctrinated, you can't see how crazy it is. When you step away and look from the outside, you realize how crazy it was to believe in the first place. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos. Smash that like button. Comment below with your own stories.